Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and we're very glad you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We have invited back Dr. Eric Pearl, the author of this fine book, an international bestseller, The Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself. It's now being translated into its 12th language. That's the popularity this book has gained and the work that Eric has been doing around the world has gotten. He has trained over 26,000 people worldwide in the reconnection technique. And he'll be speaking with us about the success that he has seen, the results they've gotten, the healings that have taken place, which are nothing short of remarkable. What's interesting also about Eric is that he has been studied by labs, by scientists, and it has been verified that the power emanating from him and from many of his students is completely confirmed and has been just very interesting to people who are interested in understanding things about electromagnetic fields and fields in general. It really substantiates our understanding of quantum physics through the physical body and through this phenomenon we refer to as healing. Hello, Eric.
Good afternoon. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. This has now been your 4th appearance on A Better World.
That's true. I'm starting to recognize just where this studio is. I'm able to direct the taxi drivers now when I'm in New York.
With your eyes closed.
Yeah, just
I
about.
was impressed.
No, actually, the driver was the one with his eyes closed. Yes.
And he's speaking the language of your 12th printing, Chinese.
Actually, no. I think the last couple of printings are Japanese and looks like Romanian. We're in, let's see, English, German, French, Hebrew, Norwegian, Danish, Czechoslovakian, Turkish, Russian, Polish I think is coming, and some of the others I just mentioned. I started at the Romanian,
well, there has
Japanese.
to be Spanish in there and Italian.
You would
some of the
think.
basics. No?
You would think. So if any of you out there know Spanish or Italian publishers,
please speak
you have
up.
them call Hay House and say, the reconnection. We want it in those languages. I truly, I truly find it very interesting that of all languages, Spanish and hence Portuguese and Italian would be nice. Haven't picked them up yet, so we have noise being made by some Spanish publishers, so we might have that coming soon.
So it's been out for just over 4 years, well, since April of 2001, and it's become an acclaimed bestseller. And you've been traveling around the world.
About 45
teaching.
weeks a year. Yeah, approximately 45 weeks a year. Just got back from Australia, and
I think you
had
got
a
back
little
from
time.
Australia the last time I saw you.
Probably had a little bit of time in LA and jumped out here to New York. From New York we go to Sedona. From Sedona, it's Dublin. I have to see the map in my head and the calendar. It's Dublin, Paris, Istanbul, UK, back to Istanbul because I've got to do a one night in front of about 5,000 people. Then Germany for 2 weeks, and then we finish back in Los Angeles in November with the last seminars of the year, and then I'm going to take some time off. And not going to do seminars for anywhere from 3 to 6 months, and I'm finally going to write the second book.
How's your Turkish?
Outside of taffy, I don't know.
Wow.
I've been to Istanbul
but
before.
There are translators, or how does
Oh, it's
that?
all right. Oh, yeah, no.
I mean, if you're speaking
oh,
to
you mean when I'm
5,000
presenting?
people,
oh,
yeah.
Headsets.
Oh,
Headsets. And we have translators. We don't put them
it's
in...
a mini UN.
Well, yeah, except I don't like them in the booths. So we take them, we don't let them be in the booths. Because they don't have any fun that way, and the people have more fun when they're out enjoying it too.
Sure. So why
So we
should
have
the
the
translators-
interpreters right there, either in front of the room or central in the room, and a lot of them really get into it because they can see what's happening and people are hearing them. And I'll explain. I'll say, now when you hold your hand in this position, you'll find a little bit of a float or suspension starts to take over, and as they're translating, you see them going. And they're nodding with it. And they're going. So everyone enjoys them as much. It's part of the interaction.
Participatory,
Yeah.
exactly. So why don't you, for the audience, if you would, just encapsulate what the reconnection is and what distinguishes it from other hands-on healing techniques that many people know that are very popular, such as Reiki and other just kind of what's considered cosmic universal healing.
That's not a sentence. That's the rest of your show for a while.
How about a paragraph or
Let
two?
me see what I can do with that.
Okay.
Reconnective healing is very different in a lot of ways. One is the researchers feel that it's a much broader, more comprehensive bandwidth of healing frequencies that seems to incorporate and include all of the other healing techniques we've known, because essentially most of them fall into energy healing. So we've had here on the planet this spectrum of energy healing where we might have had the Reiki, Jurei, Jinshin, Qigong, Mahjong, Beijing, whatever you want to call them. We've had fractions, subsets of energy healing. With the reconnective healing frequencies, we suddenly have the entire band of energy healing, which we thought in itself was exciting. And it is. But then as we watched, it's expanded from energy into light and from light into information. So we have energy, light, and information. So we not only have the missing subsets of energy healing, we have so much more that once you bring through reconnective healing frequencies, you seem to have the other healing techniques, whether or not you study them, whether or not you're at a beginning level, a master teaching level, or you've never interfaced with it, because it seems to bring you at whatever level up to a new spot where it's not that there are new levels to go to. As far as more, it's the new levels are personal, your own expansion. It's sort of like once you're a rose, you can't become more than a rose, yet each rose unfolds with its own distinct beauty that brings it into its perfection.
Let's put it this way. Tell me if this image, quantitative image, fits.
I hope so, because I only just touched that when I'm on to the next part of your question. But go ahead.
Okay, well, just to...
Try me out.
Okay. If, let's say, like sound, like the frequencies of sound that is within the human auditory range.
Right.
From 0 hertz to 20,000. And then, of course, there are higher ones. So that would equate with the light frequencies, in this case, not to mix metaphors.
So there's the audible and the inaudible.
That's right. So that would be, on the one hand, from 0 to 20,000, we've got what would be considered the domain of energy healing. And let's say Reiki would be 0 to 3,000, and Qigong from 12,000 to 18,000.
And there are spaces in between of things we haven't had within that spectrum too.
That's right. Any number of different kinds of modalities that are either discovered, known about, or just embodied by people who happen to embody them. Just the way that happens. Not known in the hills of Turkestan, and they just have this power.
Okay.
So all of that falls within the audible range, if you will, of 0 to 20,000.
Correct.
Then you get the light frequencies or the inaudible frequencies, and then you get the information frequencies that are, say, above 30,000. Is that a mapping of, in a sense, what you're saying?
That's a mapping of it. And then this fills in what we didn't have here, plus
like
gives
water.
us the rest.
Okay.
Precisely.
Okay.
So that's what it seems to carry. Okay. In other words, according to the researchers.
And then has that been measured? I mean, I know that you did some work with what is it, University of Arizona?
That's one of the labs we've done it with, and they've studied the different healing techniques.
Yes.
So there's nothing that those techniques do that isn't automatically included in this, yet this becomes more palpable, stronger, more lasting, more permanent. People say to me, well, how do you know it's different? How do you know it's different than Reiki? Have you studied it? And I haven't, or any of the healing techniques. I'm using Reiki as a generic.
Yeah, sure.
I haven't. But this is what I'm told by the master level teachers and the grandmasters who come in their comparisons and their explanations. So I have to believe them. I have to believe them.
It's their word that you're banking on.
It's their description.
Their description of
that I'm using for clarity.
The difference in their sensory experience
Yeah.
of what they've learned and mastered.
That's better.
And what you're doing.
I'm not banking on anything, because I mean the fact is I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But here's the way it's been described.
Right.
Now, let's move from that.
To the
We've
next.
hit that point. Next point is on what's distinguishing this. Virtually every healing technique that exists requires some level of diagnostics or interpretation from the practitioner. I think there's something over here that's going on. Feels like there's something in the liver. We hold the pendulum and determine, is it here or is it there?
Detecting excesses, deficiencies, imbalances.
Speed this up, slow that down, increase that, move that out, spread it over.
Okay, I got what you're saying. I got
right.
it.
Now,
Yeah.
the thing is,
Yeah.
are we really following, understanding the intelligence of the universe when we do this? Are we really...
i.e. the body.
Are we... Okay. There is, if you believe in, use the word God, use the word love, use the word universal intelligence, doesn't matter. There's an intelligence somewhere, whatever we want to call him, her, or it. We're placed here for a purpose. Don't know what it is exactly, but we're here for a purpose, and we're given the physical vehicles that we're in to carry us through. We're not given these vehicles to sputter around and die. We're given them to be healthy. They're natural, normal, adapting, regenerative. When they don't regenerate, it's not that they came here lacking something. It's more likely that there's an interference in their normal state. You know, if your brother-in-law has chronic headaches, I severely doubt that he was born with a blood aspirin deficiency. Probably there's an imbalance somewhere that's not letting him be.
Yes.
On a universal level, when we are willing to step out of the need to do the I, me, it's all about me healings, and then I came in and then I moved that, and then I saw there was an imbalance, and then I felt this and I fluffed that, and I said, when you can take I and me out of the healing, then you move into a state of becoming the observer and the observed. As the observer and the observed, you're now a catalyst instead of a director. Initially, it might not feel as ego-satisfying because it's not the fast food of healing. It's a quality food that sustains you.
Yes.
So, and we are trained to determine what makes reconnective healing so different in the philosophy and its understanding of the universal laws and principles is that the less we as practitioners know about the person who comes in to see us, the better off that person is. Because the less likely we are to interfere with the process by our determination of what needs to be done. Someone comes in and they say, well, there's a problem with my liver. Then what happens by nature is we tend to want to move our hands over the liver as if we know what we're doing. As if we know what we're doing, right? Does it matter whether the light bulb is here or here? If it's a sufficient light bulb, it fills the room. If we step in as the observer, we become a catalyst for change instead of the director. Some people will say, well, I'm not going by their medical diagnosis. I'm going by, I use a pendulum, clockwise for yes, counterclockwise for no, back and forth for not sure, right? Most people who used to use the pendulum, everyone who used to use the pendulum, will explain quite clearly the pendulum is about the most single, easily influenced term of diagnosis that you can run through. It changes according to traffic. It changes according to the argument you just had with your wife or the one you're anticipating with your husband. It changes. Some people say, oh no, it always says what I think it will. I bet it does. Other people will come in and say, well, I'm feeling for an area of congestion here. It feels congested, so I need to move the congestion out of the way, spread it out, and make it even with the rest of the body. Where does this, I'm going to call it ego, this sense that we understand everything, come from? The fact is, if a football player twists his knee, he get yanked off the field because his knee will swell up and there'll be pain. Is that intelligent or not intelligent? That's intelligent. It's the intelligence of the body.
Surely.
All right? There's pain in the knee calls up through the body's telephone lines to the brain, rings, there's noise saying help, help, help. That's the pain. The brain says, okay, I'm going to send nutrients down there, healing fluids, help limit the movement.
Create inflammation.
Right.
All
right.
purposely.
And if you move too much, then we're going to have
More
pain
pain.
perimeters out there to help remind you. That's intelligence. Not intelligent might be yanking them off the field, using ultrasound or electrical currents to short circuit the phone system so the knee's hollering up to the brain going help, 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 and the brain's here and So it goes, I guess it's all fine now, I'll stop the process. Then
Go
we
back
push
and
the
play.
swelling out of the way, no pain, and we send them out in the field. We don't know why they've got careers that don't last out of their 20s.
Sure.
Now, what makes us think that the intelligence of the body, the expression of the intelligence of the body, is any more intelligent than the expression of the intelligence of the universe, which is really more what guides the human body? When you're moving your hand in...
I went too quickly for you.
Watch.
Okay.
When you bring your hand in over a person, you go, it felt smooth up till now, but here's an area of congestion. I think I need to smooth that out. How do you know that that's not serving a purpose? When I hear someone says, yes, I felt congestion here, and I moved it out of the way, and I saw purples and greens, there was orange where it didn't belong, and I balanced the purples and the greens. The auras seemed up and spiky, so I smoothed it out, and I'm saying, well, gee, isn't it wonderful to meet the person who knows the mind of God? Because it sounds like, to me, as if you're saying, gee, God, you've done a really swell job up to now, but it looks like you need to fix something here. I'll handle it.
Now on.
Okay?
But I understand. Let me come to a point here, because you've made your point clear and well.
Good.
There is an underlying aesthetic, an organic aesthetic that we all respond to, and that is symmetry. So what is rough, we want to smooth. What is imbalanced, we want to balance. It's a natural organic, which is from that intelligence. So I understand what you're saying. On one hand, it looks like I am taking over or one is taking over, but I'm submitting to you that it's not that simple. I appreciate what you're saying, and I think it's a very good point that we want to get out of the way so that universal intelligence can come through without the interpretation. And one of the values of the reconnection, one of its inherent values, that is that we don't have judgments, there are no preconceptions, there are no presuppositions about what
it is
to
that
do.
Simple. But it
I
is
accept.
that simple. No.
I accept
but
that.
Listen to this, for instance.
Are you following what I'm...
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Let's say that you find a fish. How do fish breathe? They breathe in and out through their gills.
Surely.
That means sometimes the gills serve a purpose when they're open, and coming in and smoothing them may not be appropriate.
Absolutely.
So what distinguishes, on one level, back to your original question,
Yeah.
reconnective healing from any other form is the less we know, the better off the person who comes in to see us is. Because although you might feel wonderful pushing and pulling and doing all these things, when you become the observer and the observed, you become invited into the home, into the living room.
You become a transducer.
Right, where the healings occur all around you, and you get to witness it from that point of peace, that space of peace. And the last I checked, when you're invited into someone's home, it's not appropriate to start to rearrange their furniture. Okay? It's a different understanding.
Unless you have a different feeling of the feng shui of the room.
It's a higher understanding, too, of... you see, you threw me in that one, and I want to get to this. Darn, you just did that out of me, too.
The point is to be respectful of the state of things as they are, and you are entering as a guest, receiving the energy, and in a sense being a transducer or an antennae for the energy.
Now there becomes the next level of interpretation, which for many is based on fear, lack, or limitation. When you're working at this level, there's no dimension. Now, a lot of people give lip service to no dimension, and then their healing work, they turned some around. So now we have to work on the back. How do you have to work on the back if there's no dimension? Many people, give lip service to the blessing, to working in a perfect space, and yet what do? They go to shake off what they perceive as negative energy, or wash their hands, or spray their body in alcohol.
You make that point very nicely in the book, by the way.
Thank you. The point is this: should you be so fortunate as to have any residue left on you, that can be that wonderful scent, feeling, reminder of that session where you've just been interacting at the higher level with the universe. We limit ourselves with fear, lack, and limitations. The philosophy of reconnective healing is uniquely different because it brings you beyond technique, beyond fear and illusion, lack and limitation, and into a place where our actual essence is welcomed in as a catalyst to observe healings mediated and determined by the intelligence of the universe. And it does take the I, me, it's all about me words out of healing.
It's beautiful. This is a real strength. That's a great answer, and I appreciate that.
I liked it.
It hit something very fundamental that I look at things so much, Eric, from a point of view of the Taoist, where this idea of nothing doing, and it's not me doing, as you were talking about the I, it's just doing. It's just by being, it, if you will, is doing that intelligence. So really, what I hear you saying is that if people follow the principles that you've elucidated, then they will, in a sense, be able to spiritualize themselves, or be spiritualized more accurately, and be on a path automatically, simply by dint of doing, so to speak, this practice.
It's listening with a different sense.
Is that an accurate portrayal of what's going on?
Yes, we are listening with a different sense. We step into a situation like this, and many people come to see it. And once you interact with this, you do have to interact with these frequencies to begin to carry them. But once you interact with them, there are only a few who dare to open their eyes, but many who do are blinded by what they see.
I've got to tell you, I just did a session. Or I just received a session. Or what did I receive anyway?
You received a session.
I experienced the reconnection again, and it was so beautiful. And what I would say is I was struck by how deep into myself I went so quickly. And I don't know how it happened. I don't know if it was your intention. I don't know if it was my intention.
Well, your muscles immediately in your face, the tiny little individual muscles that we can't move on our own, began and went into that motion. And then you explained that you felt it. These are the involuntary registers. That's one of the things that set reconnective healing so apart. And it's an evolution into the next level of healing with the intelligence of the universe.
It's just beautiful. Tell us, if you would, a little bit of what kind of results are you seeing? You've been traveling now for 5 years, 45 weeks a year. You're dealing with all cultures, all people, all shapes, so many doctors, so many nurses, people who are formally in the field of healing. What strikes you? What are you so moved by when you behold and think about the effects you're having?
The most recent healing is always the one that's most dramatic.
Sure.
I mean, we were just on Extra, TV show Extra, a little bit back with a 4.5-year-old boy whose father's a medical doctor, his mother's a nurse. They brought him in because he had cerebral palsy. His hands would hang like this. He had to stand on his toes. He couldn't get his heels down. He had to hold on to people and furniture to walk and move. When I walked into the room, they already had him placed on the table. So we did a little session with him. And then the parents said, well, you should see how Brian walks, because I didn't see that, and they thought that I should. I said, all right. So the mother picked up Brian, put him on the floor. Father stood on the other side. She said, go walk to your father. Show Dr. Pearl how you walk. And Brian walked across the room, and the mother said, no, Brian. I said, show Dr. Pearl how you walk. Because she suddenly realized his feet were on the ground. His arms were hanging. Does that mean every CP child will have this change? No, but a lot of them. Enough of them for us to recognize that this is new, this is different, and this is real. And once you learn how to do this work, You can do anything and everything, facilitate any healing and every healing that I've been able to heal, and probably more.
Oh, that's phenomenal. That just happened. And you've worked with other cerebral palsy children?
Oh yeah,
as well.
I'm just using that example because it was
exactly,
on
'cause
television.
it's so fresh.
That's all, yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that's phenomenal. And nothing they've been able to do until now using standard medical procedures and protocols and
his physical
what have
therapist
you.
and his occupational and his physical and speech therapist both attended the seminar, and so did the parents to learn how to do the work. There are about 5,000 or 6,000 practitioners alone just in the medical field right now. So it's in hospitals and private practices all around the world.
All around in this country as well?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In hospitals in the United States?
Absolutely. The AMA here hasn't said anything about it. The AMA in Australia issued a formal national warning about me. That was very interesting. But that's all the better because it got us more press and has more people doing the work.
Dr. Pearl is here. Sign right up. Avoid.
You need no background.
Really?
You need no background in this. It doesn't matter whether you work at a department store or whether you do energy healing work or whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or a wedding planner. It doesn't matter.
Is there a particular kind of condition, not to sound so medical, but is there any kind of condition or type of person that you find does not respond as well proportionally to the reconnection?
I feel like you've set this up if you already know the answer. Yeah.
No, I don't know the answer.
No. And I'm going to give it to you. When these healings first started happening, my patients were coming in to see a chiropractor, and I thought I was one. So you can't double-blind a study better than that. Right. Later on, when people started coming from halfway around the world, they were usually having severe health challenges, so they were brought by a husband, wife, somebody. And what would happen is I'd have a pleasant conversation, then the accompanying spouse would go out and sit in the reception area, and the person I was left with would look at me and say, I think you're a quack and this is a bunch of garbage. So I said, why don't you say to yourself, maybe it is, maybe it isn't garbage, but here's a chance to close your eyes and rest for half an hour. They would have healings. The person who could interfere with the healing taking place was not the believer. The disbeliever. This is not faith healing. This has nothing to do with belief.
Right.
It was the person who came in believing too much, insisting that it had to occur because they understand what healing is about. It's that need, that attachment, and that insistence that we know the answer, because once we say we know the answer, we've stopped our learning right there. Thank you.
I know nothing. Thank you.
I know less. Thank you.
You can't get
No, you have to argue now. No, I know less than you. Okay. I don't know if I know less than you.
Dear Eric, you're doing beautiful work.
Thank you.
I so appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. So great to have you again. The author of The Reconnection, Dr. Eric Pearl. Thanks so much for joining us. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.